This time of the quick speed shop, I just dropped a ton of coin at Speedway Motors, and I got a bunch of parts I need to work on the front end of the Model A hot rod shop truck. This is the 11-inch kit. I bought the 11-inch rotors. They sell this kit, I think, with 9.25-inch rotors for smaller applications like a real light roadster. These 11-inch rotors are more for a full-size car application, but I wanted good brakes on the Model A hot rod truck, so I stepped up to the 11-inch rotor setup here. But this uses GM metric calipers, 73 or 77 to 88. I think it says, yeah, 78 to 88 GM metric calipers. And if you get the Chevy bolt pattern kit, which would be 5 on 4 3/4, it uses 73 to 77 GM rotors. But I have a 5.5 inch, or 5 on 4.5 inch bolt pattern, which is a Ford/Mopar pattern to match the 8-inch rear end in the truck. So these are specially drilled rotors that I think there might even be like a Mopar rotor. But anyways, so I got the whole kit here. And this video, I'm not going to have time to assemble this correctly on the truck and all that, but we're going to start the tear down. We'll pull the front wheels off. I'll show you the spindles. We'll get the instructions out, maybe bolt the brackets on. What I really want to do is get my caliper brackets and my calipers mounted so I can start running my brake lines on this truck. So we're going to go to the front. We're going to pull off the front wheels, pull off the original Ford drums, and bolt up these caliper brackets, and so I can start to get an idea where the brake line's got to go. And then in a future video, we're going to do the actual install. There's a special spindle adapter on the 37 to 48 Ford spindles. These are 37 to 41s, but these will work on any round or square back Ford spindles, 37 up to 48. I guess there is a adapter they need to heat up or press onto the spindle. So I'm not going to do that until I actually use the good spindles on the front axle. So we're just going to mock up all this stuff now, and then when I drop these steering arms, I can get the actual pieces pressed on here and finish assembling the brakes all the way. So it'll take a couple videos probably to get this whole brake setup dialed in. But in the meantime, let's go take the front wheels off and we'll get these brackets and calipers mounted up. That way I can figure out where I got to run the front brake hoses. Uh-oh, I couldn't resist the temptation. Actually here, I got the wheels. I pulled the wheels and the brake drums off, so we're down to the bare spindles here. But I couldn't resist the temptation to bolt on the new fender brackets loosely, and I'm going to lay the fenders out and put the drop headlight bar on, because I just want to get a look at how it's all going to come together. And so I got this side on. Let me go get the driver's side fender. We'll slap that on. I'll spin the headlight bar across here, maybe set the headlights on it and the grill shell. I just want to get a look at the drop headlight action. Holy crap, bam, look how awesome this is. I got the headlights mounted up on the drop headlight bar. I threw one wheel back on just so I could see the placement, and I can tell you that the tires do rub the fenders still. It's got a little, this fender brace picked the fender up a little bit. I think there'd be enough up and down clearance, but when I turn the tire all the way to the right, it hits back here in this part of the fender, then on the left it would hit out here on the outside of the fender. So if this is the 40s, I couldn't run a 600 tire on the front with this much drop. I'd have to run like a 475 500 series tire on the front to be lower. But I'm not running those. I'm going to run some slot mags with 15-inch tires on them. So I'll probably have plenty of tire clearance once I do that. But this look is awesome. I love the relationship of the headlights and the grill bar to the grill. It fits real nice. The truck's up in the air about 2 inches on jack stands, but it's going to be super low and super cool. So I satisfied myself with that, so now I'm going to blow all this back apart and we'll get on to the brakes. So the bracket simply bolts on to the outside of the spindle. These aren't the correct bolts. When you use the actual bolts in the kit, there's a button head, Allen's cap screws, I guess you call them, that bolt in here, fine thread. I just stuck a couple of 1/2-inch bolts in here just for mock-up purposes. But the bracket bolts on. It's labeled right and left here, and it's marked on the inside. The offset of the bracket here goes to the inside, to the axle side of the suspension. And then you simply take these cross bolts here, these pins here, they bolt into the bracket. And I want to show you one thing. There's rubber O-rings in the caliper that these float on. So you got to make sure when you bolt this through that the rubber, these pins, you should grease them up when you go to actually bolt this together with some caliper grease. Right now I just got it dry fit together, but the you need to watch out when you're bolting it through. You don't push the O-rings out that are in here for the seals. It shouldn't happen if you grease it up, and just be careful. Just be aware that you can push the rubber O-rings out that are in here. You got to watch that so you don't push those out. But simply bolt the caliper onto the bracket, bolt the bracket onto the spindle. So here's the brake hose, and it bolts onto the caliper with this banjo fitting. It's tapered. It only goes one way. And then the other side, there's this clip here, which screws to the frame or bolts to the frame, and you mount your piece in here, and it's reversible. You can do it either way. So what I'm looking to do is see where this is going to line up down here. I'm going to slap this bracket on. It's going to fit something like this on the bottom of the frame, and the brake hose will be like this. And when I turn the wheel, I'm just making sure the hose doesn't kink and hit anything. It doesn't stretch. It appears to be all right here. So I'm going to mount the hose bracket back in here on the frame, back in here somewhere, and then run my brake lines. Okay, over here on the driver's side, this is your cross bolt that bolts on here, and this holds a tapered pin which holds the king pin aligned inside the axle here. And one of the nuts on here, there's an indentation on the back of this steering arm that kind of works as a stop. But if you watch here, watch this portion of the steering arm compared to the axle here. As I steer to the left, the steering arm goes and it hits the axle here before this nut piece hits the back of the spindle. So I'm not getting a full turn lock to lock. So what I have to do is take the steering arm, heat it up here with a torch, get a cherry red, bend this arm down. Let's see. Bend this arm like this, bend it down here to get this piece out of the way, and then out here I'll bend it back up. So we'll essentially drop this pivot point down to about here, which also help the tie rod. I don't believe the tie rod will clear this wishbone over here right now. It's super tight, and I've got a long extension bolt. I've just got this temporarily bolted together. This isn't even a tie rod. This is just a piece of round stock. I made it into a temporary tie rod for mock-up purposes. But the actual tie rod would hit this. So this spot where the tie rod end goes needs to be dropped. So we'll bend it down here, bend that arm down, and then bend the lower part of it back up to essentially drop this portion down and clearance this here. So when I go to steer, it'll end up clearing the axle. Now it doesn't have to go much because I'm almost to the point of full turn anyway, so it's only got to bend down probably about, I don't know, 15-20 degrees in here, just enough to clear this axle. I mean, you can touch it as long as it's not binding it up too soon to stop the turning action, but because these are all hooked together, it's going to be turned in the same plane, so even if it comes over and touches it, it'll be alright. But I'll take the torch here in a future video. We'll heat this up and bend it down and bend this back up to drop the steering arm. Oh, I said before, this bracket, this marked L here, you can see where the L is on it, and the indentation here goes towards the inside of the axle. So this simply just slides around like this and bolts on with your 4 bolts. If you switch the calipers side to side, I guess technically you could bolt it on this way and put the calipers in front of the axle. I don't know why you would do that. And if you switch the calipers left to right, you'd have to have the bleeder be on top. But the kit is made to install like this, with the caliper behind the axle. This is a nice cast piece, so it bolts it right on there, clears everything. We put the rotor on, but there is a shim that needs to go in here that I need to heat up to install. So I'm not going to do that for now. I just want to get both these brackets mounted up here, get the calipers mounted up, and then I can figure out my brake line location on either side and mount that up, and then I can start running brake lines from the frame over to the caliper on either side. So I think that's all I'm going to have time for in this video. I've got the caliper on, I've got my brake hose here, I got my bracket, and I can assemble both sides and then figure out lock to lock where my brake hose is going to be, mount my brackets, and then I can start to run the new front brake lines. So this is a real important step. I've waited about 6 months to buy these. They're $300 for the set for these brakes, and it's a lot of money for me to spend on this project, but I had to do it because I needed new brakes. This is a nice setup. It uses a nice caliper that works good, nice big brakes, nice bracket to hook everything up. It's nice and simple to install. So it's going to work good. It's a time-tested piece. There's thousands of these in hot rods, and they always work good. So it's always good to have good brakes. In future videos, I'm going to be running the front brake lines. Going to be installing this kit completely, doing an install video on that, and then a video on dropping the steering arms and hooking up the tie rods and all that, and buttoning this whole front end up, and getting this thing rolling once again, and one more step closer to being done. So lots of stuff to look forward to coming up on the Model A Hot Rod Shop Truck. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I'm putting out new videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Hit the bell for alerts, tell your friends, and as always, we'll see you right back here at the Quick Speed Shop for more Model A Hot Rod Shop Truck action.